This is a short story that I have concerning Henry Mancini, who I had mentioned in another story. Anyway, it has to do with a wedding that I was hired to play some years ago in Wilmington, Delaware at the Hotel DuPont. We had this really good band, and it was led by a Philadelphia singer who's one of our friends. She's a very good singer, and for whatever reason, I'm not mentioning her name. But I don't think it would cause any problems after all these years. But anyway, before the gig started, before the reception, she came to us and she said, "This should be a really nice job. We don't really have to play a lot of rock and roll or anything, or novelty songs or stuff like that." And they want really good. They like the standards, and they want to hear some jazz and all. So I figured this is great. It's right up our alley, So she said, "We have one request," and this is something I found to be really strange and unusual. She said, the bride specifically said that they don't want to hear any music by Henry Mancini. Now, I thought this was really strange because Henry Mancini, aside from being one of my favorite composers and orchestrators and arrangers, he's one of my real heroes. I can't see how anybody could ever be offended by anything that he ever wrote. I mean, he just didn't write music that was in any way offensive, but that was our instruction. Don't play any music by Henry Mancini. So Tony DeSantis, who's a good friend of mine, plays trumpet, wonderful trumpet player. He was on the gig too, and he's sitting next to me. And different points during the reception, the bride would happen to be either standing in front of us or dancing in front of us, where she came really close to us and right in front of the band. And so whatever song we would be playing, we would start to quote Henry Mancini tunes. For anybody who is not familiar with what quoting means, is when you're taking an improvised jazz solo, it's possible to insert like snippets or certain portions of a song into your solo. So you might be playing Stardust, but at some point you might be able to fit in some other kind of tune, Misty or something like that. That's called quoting, and jazz musicians have been doing that ever since jazz began. And so anyway, when the bride would be right in front of us, during my solo, I would quote tunes like The Days of Wine and Roses, or Moon River, or and any of these tunes that Mancini wrote, Peter Gunn. And when it came to Tony's solo, he would do the same thing, So we're running through like practically all of Mancini's repertoire, but in these short quotes. And in the meantime, we're looking at the bride to see what kind of reaction this is going to bring about. And there was no reaction at all. She didn't recognize any of the quotes that we played. And they were real obvious, like you'd be playing something, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba, and then you go back and look, and any second we're waiting to hear, stop that, don't, but it never happened. Anyway, that was my Mancini wedding story. I have another one coming up soon.
Stay tuned.